it started to seem as if somebody had an agenda to try to push him out the culture. And I noticed this like in 2018, you know what I mean?
Hello again and welcome back to another one, and today we have more on the topic that's outstayed its welcome but is being kept alive by hip-hop personalities, and this makes Crook's take on the Eminem situation in hip-hop from 2020 still relevant today, as it looks like the organized effort to put down Eminem is still getting bankrolled. By who, you might ask? Well, we can only speculate, as no one knows for sure, and we have more to go on today from hip-hop writers slash personalities that sparked debates on social media a few hours ago. And before we dive in, if you enjoy content like this, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and find me on social media at ETLifestyle_web. So the Jay-Z versus battle debates continue. As in quotes, late to the party article goes, can anyone beat Jay-Z at a versus? We lay out the odds. Just check out the odds for rappers put against Jay-Z. For Future, he's got 100 to 1, Eminem 15 to 1, Nas 10 to 1, Drake 5 to 1, Kanye 3 to 1, Wayne 2 to 1, so you get the point. Jay-Z in quotes washes everyone. But back to Eminem, check out what was said about why Eminem has a 15 to 1 odds versus Jay. First, about Eminem it goes, Jay-Z once rapped that the only act making money were M, Nelly, and us, so he knows the type of capital Marshall Mathers claims. Eminem's greatest hits collection is the first rap album to sit on the Billboard charts for an entire decade. He's one of the few rappers who has the same name recognition as Jay-Z, if not more. Right? Like, that's debatable. So how did they come up with the 15 to 1 odds? Well, here you go. X Factor. If they get into an actual freestyle battle, Eminem might win. Why Jay-Z wins? Consistency. Eminem's run was a supernova at the turn of the century, but he hasn't sustained the same level of accomplishment as Jay-Z over the past 2 decades. Notice how any point made in favor of Eminem in these articles always leave room for debate. For Complex, it was Eminem is one of the most successful rappers when the data is conclusive, and in this one the data is pretty conclusive on who has more recognition, but left open for debate. But it's always conclusive when it's a point that they believe favors Jay, which often has no objective backing. And this still doesn't say why the odds are set to 15 to 1, but I digress, as this claims consistency is the reason why Jay-Z wins a versus hit battle over Eminem. There's an irony right there in the article, and on the contrary, the data shows that it's been years since Jay-Z actually had a hit on an album he's dropped based on Billboard and streaming data from Spotify, for instance. His last hit dropped 2013, Holy Grail. 253 million streams and a top 5 position on Billboard, and that dropped nearly 10 years ago. Of course, this went to Twitter, which is where the relevance of Crook's message comes to play. And before we get to the fine example that proves that, some are baffled by the fact that a hip-hop writer believes consistency is why Jay wins a hit battle over Eminem. Like I showed, the last hit of a Jay album was in 2013, one that's been completely outperformed by Eminem songs like Venom, as seen on streaming platforms. So some are wondering, maybe we live in alternative realities, and some pointed out the irony in the article. What accomplishments has Jay-Z sustained over the past 2 decades? Rock Nation? But that's not a factor in the versus, is it? Also, this is laughable, given you've literally mentioned M's greatest hits album charting for over 500 weeks on Billboard. Have some self-awareness. But there was more just around the corner. Just like Crook stated, it'd be the verified accounts.
Now, these people aren't experts. Like I said, they're just verified accounts with big platforms, but that's where it starts. That's where you start normalizing. You know what I mean? People with big platforms start saying certain shit, and it becomes something normal to say.
Check this out. I respect you and love your work, but these odds are pretty bad. Eminem is 15 to 1. Eminem's records have some of the least replay value of any rapper in the history of rap. Future has way too many modern day hits to be 100 to 1. This just sounds out of touch. So apparently Eminem at 15 to 1 is still too positive for Eminem, and many found this mind-blowing. Curtain Call is still charting on Billboard Top 50 17 years after its release. Do some research before you tweet Mr. Verified checkmark, it's embarrassing. The ratio was complete, and to add to the circle of embarrassment, the writer that started this literally cited Curtain Call in the article. How funny is that? And back to that take, based on the data readily available today, questions are arising, like, then why are y'all not listening to all these in quotes replayable albums? Because none of them get more listens than Eminem's old albums. For some context, even Eminem new hits are already doing the same thing that his old hits are doing on streaming platforms. Check this out, 2020 Hot 100 number ones that Godzilla still out streaming on Spotify. And if you said in 2020 that Godzilla will have longer legs than the Box and WAP months later, you'd be called a in quotes crazy stan. But it's been outperforming these front-loaded songs, a replay on what's happening to 2000s hits right now. Without Me's been running the show, outperforming the 129 number one songs in the United States and pretty much every single song released in that decade on Spotify. And the checkmark wasn't done. Aged poorly is being considerate. His music was just filled with rage about wanting to end his daughter's mother, G controversy, and dissing pop stars like Christina and Timberlake. He has a few records which still sound good, but most of his catalog is unlistenable. The typical surface-level criticisms thrown at Eminem you see, and based on actual data, this take is closer to Jay-Z's catalog than Eminem's. You don't have to get angry at me for pointing out the facts. Just take a look at Spotify data for instance. Reasonable Doubt has been streamed 121 million times compared to Slim Shady LP at 1 billion. In My Lifetime Volume 1, 43 million, MMLP 2.28 billion. I could go on and on, but you get my point, don't you? MMLP and The Eminem Show at 5.9 billion, it's up all of Jay-Z's solo, compilations and collab album numbers combined at 5.73 billion. And to act like Eminem was the first rapper to say controversial-ish on records is laughable. A user expands on how Eminem certainly wasn't the first rapper to do anything that he's accused of by these checkmarks. Jay's done it, DMX, pretty much every rapper you'll see on the GOAT list has rapped about controversial-ish, but that will be all for today. Share your thoughts below and see you on the next one.